Good afternoon. It's Michelle Noyes, Head of Americas for AIMA. I am joined today by Allison Nolan, founder of Athena International Management, and Matt Tabor, co-head of Cayman Funds Group at Harney, both members of the AIMA Cayman Executive Committee. So welcome, Allison and Matt. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like in Cayman these days under lockdown and how the industry is faring. So to start, Allison, can you talk a little bit about your experiences?
Thanks first of all for inviting us to participate on this, Michelle. It's really good to get a chance to update everybody with how we're doing in Cayman. I think overall our government did a tremendous job of locking us down very early, and one of the consequences of the fact that they've done such a great job in terms of the curfews and lockdowns is that it can kind of feel a little bit draconian when we have hard lockdowns, so we're not allowed out of our properties after 7 o'clock at night and all day on Sunday. Currently last Sunday that was still the case. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I think that different people are having different experiences according to what their home life is about. Matt and I were just discussing this, and as I don't have any children, I think that my biggest challenge is having more social interaction, which I get to have on Zoom and things like that. But in terms of working from home when you've got a family, I hear it's a different story, Matt.
Yeah,
Matt, can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. No. So my wife and I, both for full-time in financial services, attempting to work from home. I don't refer to it as schooling from home, more like crowd control, and trying to keep a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old occupied whilst you're still doing conference calls and doing all the work. It's a challenge. But as Alison said, the government went very, very hard, very early, very similar to New Zealand in that respect. And we're hopeful that in the next couple of weeks, things will be relaxed a little bit. But there are definitely worse places to be doing this. I will admit that.
Absolutely.
When you can get outside.
When you can get outside, we've got the benefits of the nice weather. Currently, we can't use the beaches, but we can still exercise and get out for 90 minutes a day and get some fresh air. And there are a lot of benefits, I have to say, of living in this climate where you are able to be outside more. And I think also living in general is more conducive to outside space and being outside. So yeah.
I saw something by one of the local real estate companies where they were talking about people's experiences during this whole period. And obviously we've spoken to people and we've got clients and friends in places like Manhattan and other cities and conurbations. And it is actually throwing into sharp relief people's living accommodation, living situation as to, do you need to be in that position? Do you need to be in that location? And certainly from that respect, we've all got very, very robust business continuity plans. And so we've enacted those because we would normally have those in place for hurricanes. But for now, we're actually seeing that cope very well. And so, I'd probably say to anyone listening Manhattan, you may still want to consider Cayman as a living option.
Yeah, as a New Yorker, I can certainly say I'm at least looking forward to being able to visit again. And even actually my kids are complaining about not being able to visit Cayman.
Oh, I'm sure. And just to add to Matt's point, I think that I think all financial services firms generally have business continuity plans, but we actually get to test them on a regular basis as well. So I think that what we found was, even prior to having the formal curfew, we were already well placed to start working from home. And I actually feel that in many ways, it's been a very good experience for my firm, certainly, because we're having daily morning Zoom calls at 8:30, and we're actually checking in with people a lot more. And you can use that as an opportunity to, how can we grow in this situation? How can we grow on a personal level in terms of how do we want to be when we come out at the other side of this? And also as a firm, how do you thrive in this environment, and what is it about these particular challenges that we can look at to actually really help us going forward and view things from a slightly different look. I think director firms are particularly in a position where we're used to working from home and working remotely, so perhaps we've got a bit of an advantage on that.
Yeah, and it sounds like the financial services industry as a whole has weathered these operational challenges. Is there anything notable from that experience, Matt, to start off?
Yeah, so actually what's been really interesting and good to come out of this is the engagement that we've always had with the government and the regulator has actually been enhanced. So at AIMA, we're having calls with CIMA once every 2 weeks, where we're checking in with them. We're talking about operational issues that we're coming up against and coming up with solutions to allow us to keep doing things like registering funds. And there are a lot of fund registrations going on, which is a good and healthy thing. The government has also been very open to suggestions about how we can improve and help the industry. We've got an industry-wide call coming up on Friday, and the Ministry of Finance just sent out an email about an hour ago saying that they've got 400 people signed up for that. So I think one thing that's going to be tested for sure is the Zoom capabilities of the government's Zoom account. That's one thing, but from that point of view, we're all pretty good anyway at staying in touch. But I think that what this has done is it's allowed us to open up some lines of communication that may have sometimes been a little bit closed off because it would have involved physical meetings. The fact that we're able to do these things remotely has been actually really, really encouraging. And I think I've probably finished my bit with to say that the move of all parts of Cayman government, including the regulators' move towards digital platforms and digital ways of functioning, was probably just at the right time. So in that respect, there's actually been very little in terms of interruption for us moving from a traditional way of functioning to where we are now.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think that the communication channels with government, particularly with CIMA, have, if anything, been enhanced, as you say, by the bi-weekly calls. And the forum that we have, the opportunity we have to discuss with senior people at CIMA, these are the issues that we're facing, and it's not just a question of them actually listening to us, they're actually doing something about it. And they've been very, very responsive and even proactive. They right away, straight off the bat, they identified the issue, for example, that you had to have a notarized affidavit when you're registering a new fund. So straight away, they made sort of a dispensation for that. And there have been other ways that CIMA has really looked at things from a very practical perspective and been able to introduce things such as extension of filing periods, that sort of thing. And we haven't had to go and effectively beg and ask and desperate. They've actually really had foresight and been terribly proactive. So it's been very reassuring from that perspective.
That's great to hear. And I know your client base is quite global in scope. So to wrap things up, what are you hearing from your investment manager and other clients outside of Cayman?
If I was going to use Alison's last point as a segue, interestingly, in speaking to quite a lot of investment managers in the States, they've not wanted to rely on extensions for periods, for filings, and for other things that they're being asked to do, because they're seeing it as an opportunity to demonstrate to the SEC an ability to engage with their business continuity plans and to keep operating as they would have done. So that's been one interesting feedback. And then the other one I think I'd say is that there's not been, certainly as a firm, we've discussed how this may have looked a little bit like 2008-9. If you go back 6 weeks or so ago, we were talking about that as a possibility. So far, that simply just hasn't transpired. And what we're seeing is that for funds and fund managers who may have been struggling, I suppose, this may have caused them to take a decision. But then for an awful lot of others, we're seeing this as a period of a lot of activity where new funds are being set up and established. And that's from a global client base. So that's not just North America, it's Latin, South America, Asia, and so on.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the economic dislocation of the markets has really provided some very compelling opportunities for investment firms. And what I've actually been seeing a lot of is, as Matt said, new funds being set up, and also, funds opening back up to be able to raise capital. And we've, even seen situations where investors would have been minded to have pulled out, but they actually want the opportunity to stay in and, reopen funds to take advantage of these. So I think also what I'm seeing from the managers that I deal with, there's initially, obviously, there was a very big focus on business continuity plans, their effectiveness, and people working from home. And cybersecurity is a really big issue that has been highlighted over and over again. There's a lot of phishing out there and so on. And now we've got over and above the sort of basic, sort of technical operational things. I think we're looking at much bigger picture issues. Certainly, I don't think we're seeing the run on liquidity anything like in 2008. In fact, almost to the contrary. The asset bases seem to be pretty much stable.
Great. Well, thank you again, Matt and Allison, for taking the time to talk today, as well as for your service on the AIMA Cayman Expo Committee, and for your volunteerism. Really appreciate it. And certainly look forward to the time when we're able to meet again in person. Stay well.
Excellent. You too.
Stay well, stay safe.